Hello, this is Cynthia Dyer, and today is June 26th, 2023, and I am with Dick Schumacher, who happens to be 106 years old, World War II veteran. He's Lieutenant Commander, Supply Corps, United States Navy Reserve. Dick, if you wouldn't mind, please state your name and spell it for us for the record.
Dick Dick Richard Schumacher Schumacher.
Okay, and if you could tell us where you were born, please.
I was born in Canton, Ohio, the home of professional football, but and grew up and went to high school there, and went to then after high school I went to Ohio State, and I went to Ohio State uh, for 4 years as and I graduated in 1938 with a major in banking and finance, but they weren't hiring banking people at that time. So it took time to do that. So finally, I got a job. I had enough accounting uh, that I could qualify for an accounting job, and I got an accounting job as with the Columbia Gas in Pittsburgh, and I was there in Pittsburgh for let's see, uh, well, but
It was
I skipped.
before it was before 1941.
Yes, it was.
Right.
No,
No?
no,
Okay.
I'm all mixed up. Uh, After graduating from Ohio State from 1938, and I got and I couldn't get a job, and finally, and I was there for 15 or 5 years, 15 months, and I finally caught the I was surprised. I I was I was surprised.
Could you tell me why you chose the Navy?
Well, I chose the Navy because now you're getting back to the when I was in Pittsburgh, finally I got a draft uh, number of 20, and I didn't want to serve in the trenches. So I tried to volunteer for the quartermaster corps, and they wouldn't take me in the Marines. But the Navy thought I was all right. So the Navy accepted me and gave me a temporary commission. And I was ordered to the first Navy Supply Corps School at Harvard Graduate School, and then incidentally during that time at the Harvard Graduate School, one of my classmates was John Roosevelt. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But then from there, I was sent to Philadelphia, and I had 15 months in Philadelphia as supply officer, and my handwriting got terrible because in those days you had to have a supply officer sign every public voucher, and every day at the end of the day they'd stack about 200 vouchers in front of me, and I'd have to sign all of those. But it was from there I was ordered. Let's see, to
They got the which did they put you on board a ship?
no,
No?
no, not yet.
Okay.
19 when I was ordered from Philadelphia, I was ordered to the no, let's see, Philadelphia. I
Did you
can't
go to
remember.
Chicago?
No,
No.
well, What did you call it? It was Chicago. What was it?
Yeah, after Philadelphia, it was Chicago Shipyard.
Oh, well, Chicago. I went to Chicago. They, I was ordered to naval shipyards in Central Illinois, where they were building LCs, and my job was to supply the each ship with enough provisions to go down to Orleans to be commissioned, and then and,
That's a big job to
and
supply the whole.
it was, but it only happened. I only had to order enough provision for them to last for 10 days, and ships the ships were built on a pla right on a cornfield, and they were built on rails, and they were pulled down and launched sideways into the Illinois River, and then it took about 10 days for them to build a ship. But a lot of things took place at that time. It was so cold. I can remember how cold it was uh, in, in, in
Illinois.
Illinois. Nothing between me and barbed wire and the fire and the fence and the fence. And it got cold. And I got one of those Navy bridge coats, and I was still cold.
Oh.
So I stayed with. I was there for 3 months, and I was ordered to pre-commissioning detail to the USS Ashley in March of '41, and and they put her in commission in March of '41, and put her in commission in June of '41, and we did some sea trials, and then we were sent back to San Diego on our first trip. I'll never forget the clash of all the dishes. Uh, we going down parallel to from San Francisco to San Diego. We hit a quartering sea, and it took all the dishes. Everything went on the deck. Made a terrible crash. We had to get all new dishes, and then and and, and the, I had to get some more. Get the fleet paymaster to get the cash to pay the crew. So I had reminder. I'm not telling it right,
No,
but
I think you say that you had to have a lot of cash because you were in charge of paying.
yeah,
So you carried a lot of cash on you.
yeah, carried $100,000 from in cash to so we could pay the crew.
I was going to say you must have been the most popular man on that particular.
Well, it was the way we did it. At sea, we paid the crew $10 every 2 weeks, and paid the officers $20 every 2 weeks. And after every payday, there would be a big poker game go on that would settle with, but it and the ship had a mailbox, and they would send mail orders home, and then when we get in the port, I'd pay them rest of their pay, and they would keep or send out because but after San Diego, we were ordered to go to Pearl Harbor and or Pearl Harbor, and it was we were the first. The LSD-1 was the first of its kind to be built, and they all wanted to see it. They all came to dock. The animals came to dock, and the captain was trying to be so shipmanlike, and we bumped into the pier, bumped and bumped hard, and finally settled down. So from there, we our first operation was to Baker Island, which was a prelude to listing or prelude to going to Tarawa. They wanted, and they checked. We checked the landing boats and landing, and we tried.
Did you go ashore?
Oh yes,
Okay.
not at Tarawa, at Baker, at the Baker Island. I didn't go shore. I went back to reposition the ship for the operation ready for Tarawa, and the ship from Tarawa. We left. We went to the first operation was our big operation was Tarawa, and we had 18 landing boats, each with a medium tank in, and uh, they were launched, and then we laid to about an hour, a mile from the beach, and I can remember those battleships out in the miles away sink. You could see the orange streak go through the sky. We thought nobody would be alive at Toronto, but they hit a low tide, and they ran into all kinds. They lost some boats and lost some men, and it was finally the island was secure, and we were returned to Pearl.
Where'd you go to after that? Do you recall? Was it
Well, they prepared us next for the
Marshall?
operations in the in the Gilbert Islands, which was Tarawa and Marshall, and Tarawa and in the Marshall Island, Kwajalein and Winnipeg and Weetalk, and we after secured, we stayed there, and we secured and Weetalk. Then went back to Pearl Harbor to get ready for the Marianas, and when they just tried to get to ship, the first ship was the Marianas, and what was at the Mary, it was in the Marianas was
in the Saipan, right? In the Marianas?
And Saipan, Marianne and Saipan. Thank you. And I could remember, thank you, remember trying to say something, trying,
Well, from the Saipan you went to.
we went to Saipan, which they said the Mariannes were like, the first operation was Anahuita, was and then Quadley, and then we for the Marianas, we listened to
Tinian? Is that?
the Fit Tin Am and Tin and Marian. And Tin Am, I remember them jumping off the cliffs because they were so afraid of being, they had been brainwashed and by all the Japanese, and they thought that their women would be tortured or so they committed suicide.
The women
The women
committed suicide.
and the men too.
And men.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
my.
And then after the Tin Am, after that got settled, we went back to Pearl Harbor and to be refitted and refitted and and Charles or there would be it would be repainted and put in dry dock and repainted with the camouflage color for the next operation. So then after the Marianas, after Saipan, Marian, after and Tinian, we were ordered to the 7th Fleet, which was part of MacArthur's fleet. So we were ordered to the South Pacific. And the first time there, we crossed the equator, and that was quite an occasion.
Did you go through the ceremony?
Oh yes, they had all the men. They had the chief commissariat Cord was Chief Neptune, and he had and my son's was they cut my hair, and I had to go. They had a trough made of with a cream corn, and we had to slide down through that cream corn. But that was on my way down to but from there we were getting to
Philippines.
Did
you go to the Philippines from there?
Yes, a long time. We made several trips, as I remember. I'd have to look at the map in my list, but we made trips. We had one trip was carried troops, carried 250 troops, and surprisingly, you couldn't. Your mess cooks were hard to get, but as long as they were mess, and the Marines always part of the Navy, so they parted the mess cooks. But when the Army was on board, well, we had trouble getting the mess cooks. And one trip up and down, we were in a typhoon, or the edge of a typhoon, where we took a 41-degree roll and couldn't serve any except coffee and bologna sandwiches. Was the only thing we could eat.
Yeah, rough seas will do that.
Yeah. But another 4 degrees, we would have capsized.
Oh my!
And but happily we didn't. And then we were let's see.
You went to Leyte, Philippines, and Luzon.
Well, we were sent back to Leyte to get the next Philippines operation, and I forget which operation it was, but we were across the Golden Meridian Train. I think that was just before Toronto, and that became an order of the Golden Dragon when you cross.
When you cross.
You cross the table, take a minute and lose a day.
Hmm?
And you lose if I fight it, and you lose a day. And anyhow, we uh, we finally got ready for the operation for the Philippines, and we took uh, Marines and tanks and to Lady and to Lady and to Lady, and after secured went back to New Britain, I think, where it was Guatemala, New Britain, as Guadalcanal, and then back up to the harbor to the Philippines.
Do you remember going to Luzon? Did you go to Luzon, the
No,
Philippines?
it was the operation of Luzon was was on was on was on. You tightened up with Lady and Gilgit, Lengaya, were both on Lenzaya, and after Lady was secured, then they drove back, and we had another trip back forward to Lingayen, and there's terrible kamikaze. That's the first time we saw the kamikaze.
The kamikazes in the Philippines.
And Lingayen
Oh my God. Gulf.
and these fighter pilots splashed down in the water, and it was horrifying to see, but we managed to get through that, and we were sent from there back to Pearl Harbor, or back to yeah, from Lingayen, and back to Pearl Harbor to get ready for the assault on Iwo Jima, and then we read on Iwo Jima, and we stayed there for four or 5 days, and we were wanted to close. It was we were my I had been through all this war, and my replacement was ordered, and he took him six months to catch up with me. He finally caught up with finally, and in Pearl Harbor, and I went to Pearl Harbor, and we. I was going to tell you a story about the Jeeps. When we first went in commission, the captain wanted a Jeep, and we were authorized. So there was a fellow up on the hill who was building Jeeps, and he built. He, so we applied for a license plate and got a license plate for that Jeep, and then later on, in, when we were at New Britain, the army left New Britain in a hurry, and they left their jeeps on shore. Well, we grabbed our jeeps and also grabbed a J boat for the captain, so the captain could have a captain. We had all these. Well, it lasted until we went back after Iwo Jima and back into Pearl, and I was, and there were four. We had four Jeeps at that time. Remember where the fourth one came from, but we had five, but they all had the same license plate, and at night, and the doctors they took care of the of the license plates, and somebody said that isn't right for four Jeeps, 5 license plates with the same license. So that was the end of that.
Did he
And
get in trouble?
the captain did.
The captain got in trouble?
The captain got in trouble.
Can
Yeah,
imagine.
he was called over to fleet headquarters, to the admirals, to answer for the 4 Jeeps, and he didn't. Uh, but I don't know. He was not detached from the ship. I don't think, but I was. I was detached, and I was put on board one of the Jeep carriers going back to the States. And
Can I ask you real quick before we get back to the States? I wanted to ask you about, you had mentioned to me earlier about you had large loads of munitions
yeah,
on your.
well, normally we carried Marines with 18 tanks and a Marine tank company, or 8 Marine tanks, and or but troops in between. But before the Iwo Jima operation, we went to Guam and got loaded with 500 rounds of ammunition in each boat, and there were 9,000 rounds of 5-inch ammunition, and we had to come up through the China Sea, and it was harrowing to look down at the deck and see all those powder cans. Something to spark, something to. We've been through a couple of munition ships had burned up, blown up. One at Neuve, and another one down in Neuve, Caledonia. But they make an awful noise.
Oh, so you saw that? You saw it happen?
Oh, we were at Neuve. I was going ashore, and they had put us ashore, and we got halfway and got into shore, into the beach, and to the land. Another officer and I were walking down toward the town, and when the ship blew up, knocked us to our knees.
Wow.
But they killed everybody
Oh, I'm so sorry.
on board.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
but
sad.
we were anchored about far enough away that our ship wasn't affected.
Well, that's fortunate. Also, did you see or have any POWs when you were to capture these places? Did you take prisoners or?
Well,
Right.
the only time we had prison, we had some Japanese prisoners of war on board at one time, but they were not what you think of today. They were big men, tall, and and we kept those 2 men in until we could get rid of them. But that was the only time we saw them.
What was it? You know, it must have been something to be on board with all your comrades and your fellow troop members. And were there funny things that you remember? Any funny stories that you can recall?
Let's see. Funny.
Anything lighthearted or?
Yeah.
I know it's
Yeah.
wartime, so there's a lot of sad, but.
Well, the ship's doctor and I spent most of our time together, and we played a lot of AC/DC, and I remember that. But our funniest thing I can remember is when I was a Seneca and put on a ship, and at that time they authorized overseas caps instead of those heavy caps. And I asked this one officer who was on the ferry if he would get me an authorized, get me a cap. So when he came back, he handed me the cap, and he said he had spent the night before with some girl in the lower berth in the night, and gave her my card.
Oh, how funny.
So some girl out there thinks I spent the night with her.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know that any children were made.
No.
Okay, good. That's
No,
fun.
let's see what else I have.
Did you did you happen to know of like when you mentioned that you had fun on Pearl Harbor? That was your favorite place.
Sure, and they were there each time we got there. At that time, the both the Moana and the Halekulani were the only hotels, and we could leave and go ashore and stay in one of those hotels. And and one of the hostesses found me and took me back to her mother, and they were right. They fixed me dinner, and Kaki was out there later. She met the same lady, the lady, but she, it was nice being each time we got to Pearl Harbor, we got time off. Of course, we're busy raking this, reposition,
Repositioning the ship or refitting the ship?
refitting,
Mm-hmm.
refitting,
Restocking,
I'll tell you one thing comes to mind quickly. We had a ship captain survey every year,
mm-hmm.
and the captain came through, and the men had made some jungle juice, which is something sweet. They took peaches juice and throw 4 raisins on, and then throw that on top, hang that on a steam pipe where it got some heat, and let it ferment, and then they have alcohol, and they would have.
They made their own.
They made their own. Yeah.
So, that's funny. It sounds like a good time though.
Yeah.
They probably needed to have a little. But anyway, was that out? I mean, was that against policy back then to do that?
Oh yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Back from, I think it was the First World War. Joseph Daniels was Secretary of the Navy, and he forbid all alcohol on Navy ships. We were a Navy. It was built. The ship was built on British plans,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a grog liquor.
You had a what? Grog?
Grog liquor. Because they to dish out dog grog to the men in the British Navy.
Ah, I've tasted grog once, just
Yeah.
once.
Yeah.
That was all. Um, so then when you went back after all the tour was over and you were back at Pearl, and then your replacement came. So from then, did you come back to the States? I mean, back to
Came back to the States.
the continental.
Came back to the States.
Right.
And he came back to the States, and I was ordered to the Naval Storehouse at Baltimore.
Okay.
And I think I probably had some leave in there, but I was ordered there. They were in the Naval Storehouse in June of
45.
June of 41. No.
No, I was
No,
going to say when you were getting ready to get
Wait,
out,
wait,
it was about 40. It was 45ish.
Went back to Pearl Harbor. Let's see. We went back to Pearl, and just from Pearl.
Let's see. For my notes, it said that you had you were released from active duty in 1945 and had started your terminal leave in 1946.
Yeah.
Does that sound
That's
about
right.
right? Okay.
All right.
And then after you got out, after you were discharged
Yeah.
from active duty, it was later that year you met your wife? Is that
No,
right?
I met her.
You met her
I
before?
met her when I was ordered to the Naval Storehouse.
Oh.
And they had an officers club, and you weren't supposed to commingle anymore, but you could dance. And we danced, and Susie whispered her telephone number in my ear.
Aw.
And
That's sweet.
then later on, another officer, I was sitting in the apartment wondering what to do on a Sunday. And we decided I had this number, and I called, and I went to a state, to the hall call, to the March, my
Okay.
mind is straight.
That's okay.
I went to Baltimore
Uh-huh.
as Harbor, at the Baltimore Harbor,
Mm-hmm.
and I was there for I was there for 4 months, and then I was ordered to from there to pre-commissioning tail from Baltimore. After no, that can't be right.
Well, may I ask you, after you met your bride,
Yeah,
but she wasn't your bride yet,
yeah.
how did you propose? Tell me how you proposed to her.
She said she wouldn't let me go, wouldn't let me go away. She whispered in my ear to call that number. So I guess I did, and I went on. I stayed at the boys' household for 3 days. All her family was all gone, except her older sister was there as a
Chaperone.
chaperone.
Mm-hmm.
And when they came, funny thing, when they came back from Fisher Island, Mother Boyce was going up the steps. I was going down, and she said, "Who's that?" she didn't know. I was staying on the 3rd floor. funny things when 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 I was at Baltimore. Uh, the Boyces had a full-time cook, and she said, "What do you like to have?" I said, "I'd like to have some sauerkraut and mashed potatoes." So Bertha couldn't read, but she could read the sign, read the calendar. She found the sauerkraut and she fried it. She fried it.
I've never had fried sauerkraut before.
No,
I've never heard of that.
no, but that's what she did.
Was it good?
She didn't know
Oh,
how to fix it,
oh.
and
But she tried.
she tried.
Yes, she tried. So I understand that this blessed woman that you met and you fell in love with, she whispered in your ear and gave you her phone number, and then you
What?
called and stayed.
Tuxedo 5678.
You remember the number. I love that.
Easy to remember.
Yes. Well, so you were married to her
Yeah,
for 75 years and 11 days. Is that correct?
yeah.
Oh my.
75 years.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, that's amazing. That's
Long time.
wonderful.
Yes.
Really wonderful. Yeah, that's great. So so you were, from the time that you started into the military to the time that you finally got out of the military,
Yeah,
was a total of about what?
6 years.
6
5
years.
years.
5 years. 5 to 6
years.
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you went into the reserves, the Navy Reserves.
Yeah,
after
until they offered a discharge, and I turned down the discharge, and I said I wanted to be discharged, so they discharged me. Because if I'd stayed in, this was in 1945, I probably would have been called back for the Korean War, and my life change would have changed. My life would change entirely.
Yes.
Yeah, I probably would have stayed in the Navy if I'd gone back in
Yes.
second time,
Wow.
but I didn't.
Okay. So what did you do for your career after you got out?
It was in the old college roommate of mine had bought his mother's company, her mother-in-law's company, and he wanted me to come to visit, and he didn't know what he had. So when the first inventory was over, I said, "Joe, I can't buy him, and neither can the others." So I stayed as vice president until till he died. And this was like construction equipment and supplies and industrial supplies. And he died in 1953 and left it in trust. And I became trustee, or I'm not a trustee. I became the operating. I answered to the trustees at the bank until I could finally find a way to buy it, which I did in 1964. And then.
And you bought the company in 19.
Bought
the company
in 1964, and then.
So you ran that company until when?
Well, until it was 64. I ran the company from 1953 on. All else, as 1964, I was the owner of
the owner.
Yeah.
There you go.
And that lasted she was 4 days, four to till we found someone who wanted to buy it,
So you sold the company eventually.
and they sold the company
Oh, good.
and retired at age 60.
You retired at age 60.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
And you played golf?
I played a little golf. Played a little golf.
Played a little tennis?
Played a lot of tennis.
Played a lot of tennis.
Yeah.
A little golf, a lot of tennis. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, well, good. What about, is there anything else that you want to tell about your military history, about anything that you, any other stories or memories?
See what stories I might have.
What was the scariest time for you?
The scariest was looking when we rolled 41 degrees and came back up again. We were empty at that time. As I remember, that was the scariest. Because another 4 degree, we'd have capsized and gone under.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. Well,
So that, and I guess when we went to Lady and went to tanks into Lady, and there were scary times to get those boats all operating and in the shore. Oh, that's about all.
and did you stay in touch with any of your other comrades after?
Not very much. I met Stan Graff was a roommate of mine at Ogun when we were putting the ship in commission, and he was an officer. He was a gunnery officer, I believe. And Stan later when he was Gulf Pro, and he was the leader of the Gulf Pro, Hilton Head, and he taught me a few things.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
That's a good friend to have.
Yeah.
That's good. That's great.
I can't remember anything else.
Well, how does it feel to be 106 years old?
Well, it doesn't feel any different from 105 or 104 or 106, 103.
Okay.
Except I probably was more cogent then than I am now. I find thoughts going through my mind.
Sure.
And as you will, a couple of times, I couldn't remember the word.
That's okay.
And I'm sure at 104 or 103, I probably could.
Oh my. Well, I think anybody who has ever met you can say that they're very proud for you that you've gone so long. Is there a secret to your success, by any chance?
I would say that to my parents, both lived to be 88, which was long for their generation.
Certainly.
And they lived to be 88, and I lived, let's see, 43.
Did you have any brothers or
The
sisters?
other thing, you asked me a question which I didn't answer.
I'm sorry.
It was a lot of exercise. I walked a lot, and I had good genes, and I exercised, and until I got down to 107, then I couldn't exercise anymore.
Yes. Now, your birthday's coming up, is it?
September 4th.
September 4th. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And did you have brothers and sisters that lived?
I had two older sisters who died before me.
Before you, yeah.
Yeah. I had two.
Okay.
And they.
Yeah. Okay. And you had children? How many
We had-
children?
We had a girl, a boy, a girl and a boy and a girl, and it was a good family growing up until we and sometimes we, so now we are Rob left after he got married. He left the family, and we had the two girls left.
Okay. Good.
So
Good. Well, again, it's such a pleasure and an honor for me, certainly, to be able to interview you for this
Yeah.
project, and it's such
I'm
a
sorry
pleasure.
if I ramble around.
No, you're fine.
I
It's all
don't.
good. It's just beautiful that you remember.
I remember something,
Oh
but
yes.
then I start to say something, and something else comes out. Yeah.
That's okay. It's all good. So, anyway, thank you so much again,
Right.
sir. Appreciate it.